Alright, welcome back YouTube RC lovers. It's Theibault, aka Omar, back with you again, and we are finishing up the TT-02 Type S build. We're on a bag C, which is our final bag. When we left off, we had a completed chassis ready to go, waiting for suspension and electronics, and our next step is going to be building the suspension, the shocks on this guy. A couple tips I have for you that'll make your life infinitely better when you are building shocks. Over the years I've built tons and I can't do without one of these. This is a shock shaft plier. So these things are phenomenal. You'll use them to hold your shock shafts, to put the shock ends on. Just keeps you from marring that shock shaft to ensure that you're going to have the best performance. Green slime. This is your best friend when you're building shocks. To get a real nice shock that's not going to leak and be pretty consistent, I always use this on my O-rings, so you'll see me putting a liberal amount on the O-rings. And then finally, shock tool. This is a Tamiya shock tool. Terrific once you are ready to fill your oil. Place your shocks right in here. Close it up. Give it a few pumps. Creates a vacuum. Pulls all the air out. You won't have any bubbles inside your shocks. So, at this point we have our tools ready to go. So, let's get going building these shocks. Okay, shocks are built. One thing you're going to notice, these are not the shocks that I just built. So what I did is I built the Tamiya shocks so you guys could see how I build my shocks. These are a set of 55 millimeter dampers from 3 Racing. I just wanted to add the blue. I actually went to get the TRF shocks, but every place was sold out. So I settled for these. These actually work a lot better than the TT-01 shocks over there. They don't leak as much, and you don't need as hard a as thick an oil for it. They just work much better. The one thing that I did do, if you'll notice, is I am using the kit springs because they're much better than the junky springs that 3 Racing gives you. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and mount up our shocks. There we go. So we have our suspension. I think it looks pretty good. And now we're going to move on to our steering and electronics. Alright, we're up to our steering assembly. I did purchase a couple option parts for the steering assembly just to make sure it was smooth. Plus it adds a nice blue color just going in with the build. Those parts, in case you're interested, are the OP1574, which is your aluminum racing steering set, and the other part being the OP1575, which is your aluminum steering bridge. So those are the option parts that I did get to make the steering a little bit smoother on this car. That being said, let's get to building our steering bridge. Now that our steering rack is on, our next step is going to be installing our electronics, including the Servo Saver. As far as the electronics go, what I'll be running on this, I'll be using my trusty DX3 Pro Spectrum SR301 receiver, Hobbywing Quick Run 1060 ESC. These things are super inexpensive and they're great little ESCs to run with brushed motors, especially in kits like these guys that are just going to be fun runners, and they're waterproof too. Make sure that you hook everything up, center your servo before you move on to the next step. Alright, time to bring and build our Servo Saver. I already placed the first spring on the Q1 part. 25 spline because Spectrum runs the same thing as Futaba's. By the way, I hate building these things, so one of the things that I am going to do is I'm going to go and cut away, and I'll be back with this build. Alright, got all 3 of the springs on there. That's always a pain in the butt. I hate that. But regardless, let's get the rest of it on, and then we'll start mounting all the electronics into the chassis. Alright, now let's get that servo installed. We'll go ahead and put on our servo posts. And finally, our antenna. I don't know why I'm putting songs there. I'm putting the antenna out for this, but as long as I was it has a water antenna. It'll just be nice that it's in there. Plus, another thing I'm just going to hold it on, just in case I have to drive through a hug or something like that. Et voila! For our last little bit of electronics, we're going to be mounting up the speed control and putting the receiver on there. As you can see in the chassis, there isn't much room for electronics, so if you have a giant speed controller, it may not fit too well in there. But this little hobby wing unit is nice and small, doesn't take up too much space. So let's figure out what's going to be the best point for it. And that looks pretty good to me. I'll be able to run the motor leads a little bit this way, and then the battery will just go over to meet the battery over here. So, time for our good friend Mr. Two-Sided Sticky Tape. Let's get some scissors. How big of a piece do we need? Not too big. I always like to put a little pressure, make sure it sticks. And let's get this bad boy mounted up. Okay, should be a good spot right there. kind of wish I had a blue heatsink for this to kind of match up the rest of the coloring, but oh well, what are you going to do? And then as far as the receiver goes, I'm just going to place the receiver right on top of the servo. Quick little tip. Any of your receivers, when you're putting double-sided tape on there, that happen to have a sticker like this, either avoid putting your double-sided tape on top of the sticker or peel it off. One of the things that you'll find is eventually over time through vibrations, if it has a sticker like this sticker will give and it'll start to pull the receiver off of there. All right, that's it. We're in the home stretch. Just mount the tires and we'll be good to go. Just a couple notes. You'll notice that I cleaned up my wiring just a little bit. Just use the old trick for doing the curly cues for servo and ESC wires. Pretty easy to do. Just grab any, screwdriver shaft and you want to put the wire around it. Just roll it around, make it tight. It'll hold a nice little curl. Outside of that, since I don't have an antenna tube, I just kind of stuck the end of this antenna, which is already short enough, into the hole that's at the top of the servo post. I don't anticipate it'll get in the way or have any issues. The main thing with that antenna is you just don't want the antenna to come into contact with your power cables. It can just cause some interference. I did use a piece of double-sided sticky tape to mount the on-off switch right here on the side next to my ESC. So now let's go ahead and put these tires on. One thing to pay attention, they do give you a nice little set of tires in there. They have full inserts, which is nice, and it's not those awful old straight bar style that Tamiya used to give you where you have to glue the ends. These are proper ones that are in there. They're a little on the soft side, but I think for the fun running, I can already tell this isn't the most soft of compounds, but it does seem like a pretty decent compound for running on pavement. I'll tell you more about that when we do some running videos. So that being said, let's get our wheels on the car here. And if you haven't noticed, there is one thing that I left off of this car for the moment, and that is the body posts. The reason for that is I am not entirely certain what body I'm going to run on this, and I'm going to ask you guys for some help on that. I actually have 3 bodies that I have picked out. I already have the bodies, so it's not like I have to go out and get them anywhere, but they do need painting. They have not been painted yet, otherwise I would have shown them so that you could make a pick. And the 3 bodies that I have that I'm going to be using are going to be, by the way, the tires are directional, and it just dawned on me that I put 2 of these guys on backwards, so we'll just flip them. And yes, I have not glued them on yet. That's okay. I will be gluing them on before I run them. So let me just flip this one over here. This guy's good for there, and I gotta open this one up. So anyways, getting back to the bodies, you'll be able to see whatever body I decide to go with once I have my running vid going. By the way, there's the foams in there. They are one piece. Hooray! I wish Tamiya would do that with more of them. But getting back to the bodies, so this is where I want you guys to comment and let me know what I should go with. I kind of have one that's in the clear running as to what I'm going to paint up for this particular car to be the shell. But what the choices are going to be, first and foremost, a And they are all genuine Tamiya bodies because Tamiya makes the best looking bodies that are out there. The very first one is the Tamiya LaFerrari body. I think it's a beautiful, good looking body. It's at the top of my list, but I also happen to have a Nissan GTR body as well, and a Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 10 body. So those are my three choices for this particular kit. You guys tell me, put in the comments, what do you think I should run as the body on this guy, and I will certainly take in your input. Just, you know, my only caveat being that the final say will be mine, and depending on what I feel like throwing on there. But those are going to be the choices as far as the bodies go. So in the comments, please go ahead and, I don't want to call it a vote per se, but please leave some comments as to what body you think I should run on this vehicle. Outside of that, I have to say this has been a very enjoyable build, as most Tamiya kits are. I mean, they just make lovely, lovely kits. They go together very well. All the parts fit very well. It just makes the experience a joy, and their instruction manual, which I know you guys haven't seen, but it's been to the right of me this whole time as I've been going over the build, are just fantastic and make it real nice and simple for anybody, even if you've never built a kit, to get a kit and get it together properly. That being said, if you've never built a kid, some of you may have built kids out there, but that's not what I'm talking about. If you've never built a kit, by all means, go out, get yourself a kit, especially from Tamiya, because they are such a joy, and build one. It is such a rewarding experience and so much fun. Not to mention, on top of it, you will know exactly everything that makes your car run and run well. So, final few things. I can already tell I need to go and just do a little bit of adjustments. I always use my digital calipers when I build these kits, but anybody who's built these kits, no matter how precise you are with these things, once you finally put it together, you're going to end up with situations where you might have, in our situation here, we have a little bit of toe out that I have to take care of. I'll be checking as well as camber on the wheels, make sure that they're proper. It's one of the nice things, you know, with this Type S kit coming with the adjustable turnbuckles, we're not stuck with those parts. But that being said, boy, what a good looking car, huh? Can't wait to get this guy up and running. I just think it's fantastic. It looks great with the parts that we have on there. It's got a nice little bit of bling. It's light. It's a very light car. So can't wait to see how this does. Let me know about the bodies. Hope you guys enjoyed the build. Thank you for your time. As always, if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to share this if you have any friends who know that they want to do it. Thanks guys, and I'll see you on the next one.